With India's involvement in ambitious and aggressive growth plans, efficient management is the need of the hour.
What organizations recognize is that all strategic change is delivered through projects and programs. So whether I be a consumer goods, a financial services, an ICT organization, or I'm a public sector, a government department or ministry delivering services to my citizens, all that strategic change, implementing new programs and projects is critical, and it happens through project and program management.
Project Management Institute played host to the 3rd Annual National Conference in the Garden City, Bangalore. The theme of this year's conference, Architecting Project Management for Nation Building.
Architecting Project Management for Nation Building is a theme for this year's event because we think it's topical. India is involved in some of the largest growth from a GDP standpoint globally. They have a lot of ambitious and aggressive plans around e-governance initiatives, and they have a huge infrastructure investment that's underway.
Setting the tone for the 3-day conference on project management was former President of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam.
While executing various national programs, my team and myself gone through certain experiences in project management. What worked yesterday won't work today. Yesterday, natural resources defined the power. Today, the knowledge is the power. Sustainable development would be the mantra in future. For India, what is needed is sustainable development. 600,000 villages, 700 million people are there. How do you reach sustainable development? The education value system is the need of the hour. With these words, I inaugurate the 3rd Annual Conference of the Project Management Institute India and the 6th Annual Conference of PMI Bangalore Chapter. My best wishes to all the participants as success in the mission of contributing towards rapid economic and societal transformation in our country. May God bless you all, friends.
The Project Management National Conference got underway with a discussion on the importance of driving value in turbulent times. On the days, Mark Langley, President and CEO PMI, Sanjay Manchanda, Director and Group Head Microsoft India, and Ricardo Triana, Director PMI Board.
Organizations and governments worldwide are struggling with tighter budgets, contraction and improvements in government services, all with less revenue to manage by. Organizations don't have the resources necessary to deliver the types of projects that their customers, stakeholders, citizens want. So it's not that you don't have enough of the right enough development resources. It's that you don't have enough of the right development resources, or you don't have the right marketing and communications or finance. But there's an austerity mindset that's starting to take place, and we're seeing a convergence both in the public and private sector around really doing more with less on a permanent basis. They're not restoring the budgets or the budget levels that they've had, and it's across the board. Hiring, so full-time headcount. It's in how they contract or outsource. It's especially in the areas of training and development.
No longer are you dealing with how can I get my project to be finished on time? How can I be more efficient in using my resources? You're actually making decisions at a way more strategic level. Historically, we were accustomed to seeing economic ups and downs, but the cycles were relatively long. And what's happened over the last 5 years is that's kind of changed. We had one in the early 2000s. We thought we were done for the decade. Well, surprise. We had another one in 2007, just when everybody was beginning to feel good about the economy. We came out of that 2 years later, and everybody started saying, hey, the spending is back, and investment banking is going to come back, and people are going to do mergers and acquisitions, which they did. And we're back facing a recession all over again in less than 2.5 years. So what that tells us is that these turbulent times now are becoming a lot more compressed.
Now we are talking about portfolio management. We are talking about how to select the right projects, how to make these projects work, and companies from all the sizes. For example, Petrobras, that it's the oil company from Brazil. This is a company that they have income like for 127 billion a year, but they had a portfolio of 224 billion And when we were talking with this lady in Brazil, she's the one that is controlling all the portfolio of projects. She says it's not only about the strategic projects, it's also about those projects that may become what we call now black swans. Things that are really rare, but they may happen. Okay? You never expected to have a black swan, but it will be. She was keeping an eye on those strategic projects, but she was keeping an eye also in those minor projects. So she was saying, I go to the projects and I check if they are doing it right. Because if they are not doing it right, they become a problem and later it's going to be impacting my business. Managing the whole portfolio is not only strategic, it's also those projects that could become a problem.
Driving value in turbulent times is critical because organizations were focused through the recession and coming out of the recession on continuing to deliver value to their ultimate customers. And it was a theme that has resonated well with both the practitioners, the individual project managers, and the organizations that employ them, whether they be public or private sector.
After the Executive Connect panel discussion, Arup Roy Chaudhary, CMD of the National Thermal Power Corporation of India, engaged the audience with the significance of cooperative and timely execution of projects.
We know that the nations are built when the projects are made. Some projects are finished in time or ahead of schedule. Some projects are stopped without seeing the end, and many projects fall off the track. This really impedes the development of the nation. The leader, the project manager's role is extremely important as to how he navigates the project, how he or she anticipates issues which might lead to dispute, what proactive action needs to be taken to forecast a dispute and see what kind of dispute is happening.
It's a human psychology to put the blame on somebody else's door. So the moment you are unable to do so, or you're not allowed to do so, and you know that it is your responsibility ultimately to get things done. Now that's the person who's the ideal project manager, who realizes his responsibility and is willing to take that.
Delegates of the Project Management National Conference 2011 received words of wisdom from eminent speakers.
Project management is an evolving field in management. There are a lot of things happening on, I won't say daily basis, but on a regular basis there are things, developments in this. So our aim is to provide these practitioners a platform, one, to learn from experts, two, to be able to network with each other, because there is no way I can solve all my problems. I need to network and learn from other people who have already solved the problem.
Vice President HR of IBM India, Dr. Chandrasekhar Sripada, shared his thoughts on the importance of creating enduring and sustainable projects.
This is the irony, and this is in a way a philosophical dilemma of projects, is that they have an end and a beginning, and therefore are they impermanent. But interestingly, as the task of managing a project is time-bound, the results of the project is timeless. If project managers can just see and contain in them this interesting, what is apparently a contradiction, that is how to do something very quickly in a time-bound and yet produce results that are more permanent and more impactful in the long term and more enduring, that they will be the best project managers.
Discussing project management and talent building were a group of luminaries from a range of fields, bringing diverse perspectives to the table.
From the point of view of business, we had in our organization one mandate. For every critical project, the definition varies. The project manager has to develop one or two project managers at the end of the project. One of the aims or one of the key result areas of this project manager or KPIs is not only make the project successful, but also generate a couple of project managers. That's how you force multiply.
In a triangle of skills, experience and attitude to perform a job, where does the project management fit in? project management sort of encompasses this. Now, when we are talking about a college or a university or an institute which imparts the skills of project management, again we are coming back to one part of these three. And I don't know any institute, academic institute or college or university today is able to produce an young graduate with a completely rounded experience like that. If somebody can produce, they can become project manager directly into the industry. It may not really meet the levels of experience required, but the organizations can fill up that gap extremely fast.
In 2000, we became a globally integrated enterprise. We said that we will go wherever talent is available and we will work there. With that coming in, the project management methodology strengthened a lot more because there were remote projects. We had teams virtually sitting all over the world, and it had to be managed. And the only way you could manage it was with PM, because we saw a lot of successes. And you see successes, you see what you're doing is right, and it only gives you further strength to make the methodology even more successful.
Very recently, FICCI has given a 3-point agenda to the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation for building project management talent in the country. Now, one of the points that we have recommended to them is to make a distinction between organizational project management capability and individual project management capability. Because most of the times when we are talking about training in project management, building project managers, certification in project management, we are talking about individuals becoming more and more competent and skilled in the domain of project management.
If 12% is what Infosys is investing, and I do seriously believe that if I look at the total training budget of all Indian corporations, it will probably run enough to be able to establish a whole collaborative university funded just through the corpus of training and build skills for the nation rather than building skills for companies. But if we want to build Indian project management, we are talking about sustainability of India rather than profitability in the short run.
Drawing from India's rich heritage was author Radhakrishnan Pillai, who modeled Chanakya as an ideal project manager.
Today, it's not about glorifying the past and saying India kitna acha tha, but India kitna acha ho sakta hai. Each country has to believe not only its strength from the past, but also get itself introduced to what's happening in the present. So let me start with Chanakya. Not many people are aware of this, that he was responsible for defeat of Alexander in India. But how many people have even understood him as a project manager and his inputs on how projects are to be managed? Chanakya believed that I can achieve a success in my generation, but if I want to give that knowledge to my next generation, I need to document it. He wrote 2 books, Arthashastra and Chanakya Niti. Why shipping industry has grown 10-fold times is because of 2 things. They've invested in training and they've invested in documentation. Somewhere over the period of last 50-60 years, we've been only talking about the negative parts of India. Of course, there are weaknesses in any country. The corruption is all around. It's affecting us. There are issues. The roads are still bad. But at the same time, we should also understand that we may not be the best country in the world, but we are not a failed nation.
Niranjan Maka, Managing Site Director of VMware India, put forth the concept of cloud computing as a sophisticated project management tool for nation building.
As an entrepreneur who has tried to bring up small network connecting PCs in a remote area, not more than 200-300 kilometers from Bangalore, it used to be a huge challenge. Right from, do you need an AC for this PC? Right? How do you maintain this? We don't know what crashes. So I've struggled. I've been there, done that. Now when I look at what's happening in the cloud and kind of the thin footprint devices that can actually work in these kind of environments, I'm really encouraged.
The big challenge in any kind of application deployment in the technology world was I had to understand the entire stack. I had to know what kind of applications I had to build, how to build it, what kind of resources are required at a stratum layer. All those things I had to figure out. That's what made project management in the technology world very hard actually. It used to be that it would take a deployment of a ERP application 1.5 years or so in the past. People don't have that kind of patience, and problems are not waiting to be solved over a 1.5 year scale. Cloud computing cuts a lot of that complexity.
Project Management National Conference 2011 returned with a pantheon of business leaders who shared their vast knowledge on the subject. Bringing years of success and experience to the Project Management Conference was Mr. Narayan Murthy, Chairman Emeritus of Infosys, answering questions posed by project managers in the audience.
At the end of the day, I think if you create an environment which is open, which is pluralistic, which reveres meritocracy, which reveres hierarchy of ideas rather than hierarchy of men and women, I believe that you will indeed be able to foster such innovation.
As a developing country, our priority is development, which is building new airports, ports, roads, power plants, etc. Every one of these things will have to be done efficiently, which means they will have to be completed on time, within budget, and with the requisite quality. To do that, the most important tool we have is project management systems. And therefore, most of the questions that people asked today were about how to complete a project on time, how to use the tools, how to create a culture of acceptance of these tools, what is it that requires to be done so that India becomes an enthusiastic follower of the principles of project management.
Next up, an eminent panel sat down to discuss the development of national assets.
Anything we would like to do in this field of research and development, we expect that the government of India or the state governments should fund it. Individuals as well as industries spend a lot of time in getting this clearances and all that from the government and then try to take up that project. All of us have got certain resources, certain turnover, certain sales, certain profit margins. Can we put aside a portion of this and develop an R&D base in various areas in which we are working?
A certain segment of your project management community is getting exposed to this new ways of doing things. So what is that we can do to make it across the broader India, 1.2 billion population? Building national talent is finding, a national asset is finding another individual, another asset that you can personally stay in with. One builds other builds somebody else. In the process, we build chain of national assets. That's our talent.
During those days, India is an underdeveloped country or just entering into the developing phase. Just we got our independence. But our forefathers have got a very good vision, thought they should go for the space. Actually, people were started questioning why you should go to the space, because we don't have the roads, we don't have the basic infrastructure. What is the point in going for the space? But the visionaries like Vikram Sarabhai asked the question. The question is not whether it is relevant that India embark on a space program or not, but it is relevant to ask ourselves whether we can afford not to embark on the space program.
In the 90s, there was a realization that for serving a population of this kind of a country, it was beyond the wherewithal of the government alone to be the sole creator of national assets. And that is where you saw more and more involvement of the foreign direct investment as well as private sector participation in accelerating the creation of national assets.
Up until today, most things have been measured on economic terms. As we go forward in this century, in the next coming few years, the guys here that are across technology will argue that the social benefits of technology are much more important to them and their users than perhaps some of the economic benefits. And we can wait for the economic, but we need the social benefits. National assets can demonstrate growth for the country, both in economic and social terms. but there is a cautionary tale.
The Project Management National Conference 2011 also featured an awards acknowledge and celebrate recent achievements in the field of project management. Winning the PMI Project of the Year Award 2011 was GAIL India for their project Vijaypur Dadri Bhawana Pipeline. The runner-up, Mangala Development Pipeline Project by Kane Energy India. Winning the PMI India Contribution to the Community Award 2011 was the CSR wing of Infosys Chennai for their Sneham Shiksha project.
Project management of late has evolved more like a science, and it's a management discipline now. And there's a methodology and method to doing things in a right way. So if you will promote those kind of methodologies among all of those infrastructure, and I think it will benefit the nation as a whole.
Various sectors try to see and mimic what is the solution out of an automobile industry could be applicable into civil construction, something from the airlines industry getting into pharmaceutical or food processing, agricultural industries, innovation methods, test technologies, or project management technologies can be applied in the IT industry, vice versa. This cross-learning happens in this area because we are neutral ground. We are not siloed. And that is the benefit of this conference.
The Project Management National Conference closed on a positive note, with delegates and panelists stressing on the need for a sustainable development model with efficient and transparent project management techniques.